it! Oh, price drops. No, don't tell me that. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Now, as you can see, obviously today we are in a little bit of a different area of my bedroom. We are quite literally on my bed. I have a cup of coffee, which I promise I will try to drink more out of before I talk, so you don't have to worry about me spilling it on my new comforter or anything. Let me just... The reason why we are in a separate area of my bedroom today is because I wanted to do a bit of a wrap up, but I wanted to have a more like casual kind of thing. It's not really like a typical wrap up. It's gonna be mostly me just talking about my top 5 favorite books that I've read so far in the year, and I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about them, why I love them. Yeah, that's gonna be kind of the plan for the video. I wanted to be comfortable and I just wanted to sit down and chat, basically. So that's what's gonna happen. Now, if you're wondering why I'm not doing like an official wrap up, it's because I've read 24 books so far this year, which is amazing. First of all, let me just have a moment to like pat myself on the back and kind of like just clap, honestly, because you guys know how much I've been struggling with reading for the past like year and a half, particularly this past month. A little bit in February. I only read like 1 book in January, so I didn't really read much in January, but in February I started reading, mostly listening to audiobooks, and that really helped a lot. And then in March, I just could not stop. Like, I could not stop, would not stop, and it was amazing. I read so many books, and I loved most of them, to be honest, which was a pretty good streak for me. I've just been doing really great, and I've really been enjoying it. I've been loving, like, diving back into worlds and reading about characters, and I've fallen in love with so many new characters, and it's nice, you know? It's nice to be back. It's nice to like have that thing that like used to make you happy and then all of a sudden kind of went away for a little bit, you know, for a variety of reasons. It's kind of nice to be in that mindset again of enjoying it and loving it, and just it's great, honestly. It's really great. Actually, let me get my hair out of my face. Is that okay with you? Yeah, it's fine. It's like a comfy chat, you know? Like, we're just chatting. We're friends, you and I. Where was I? Right, so I've read 24 books so far this year. And I cannot express to you how much I did not want to do a typical wrap up, because talking about 24 books would literally take me like at least an hour. Usually when I film wrap ups, I try to cut down what I say about each book to 1 minute a book, and even if I did that with that one, it would be easily over 24 minutes. So I just didn't want to do it. But I will say I do rate all the books that I've read on Goodreads, so if you want to check out all the books that I've read and what I thought about them, like if I don't talk about one of the books that I read but you're interested in my thoughts on any one of them, just ask me. Or I will probably like end up mentioning it in some sort of tag or something later on in another video, but I just, you know, for right now, like, it's just a lot. I don't want to like go into depth about all the books, if that makes sense. I want to talk about my top 5 books. So it's kind of hard for me to pick the top 5, but I picked the ones that I was kind of more excited to share and talk about. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Should I do this chronologically? The first book that I'm gonna mention is one of the books that I read for the BookTube Awards. I was a judge in both the contemporary and the retelling categories. Originally I was gonna go with Geekerella, which is also another one of my favorites. However, as much as I love that book, and trust me, I do genuinely love it, and I would highly recommend it if you're a fan of retellings, if you're a fan of cute YA romance. But the one that I wanted to talk about was Hunted by Meagan Spooner, actually, because this book, I had a really difficult time choosing between this one and Geekerella. The reason I want to talk about this book in particular is because you guys know that I was reading a lot of contemporary, which is not typical for me. Like, I'm usually like a fantasy girl. I like my fantasy, but I was having a moment where I needed happy things in my life. I needed cute, fluffy romance in my life, and I started reading a lot of cute YA romance contemporaries, which I love. They're great. I'm still reading some of those, and I will continue to read those for a really long time, hopefully. But the reason I picked this is because once I started reading it, like, it just reminded me why I love YA fantasy so much. Just being in this world and having like magical elements along with like the retelling elements, which you guys know I love retellings. I love fairy tales. I grew up with fairy tales, and this is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. There are elements of fairy tales within the story, and I guess like a theme or like a topic that is explored through this is the power of fairy tales, the power of stories, and the power that the stories in general have for people, and like the magic that they create within people and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it. Like, it's just beautiful, and it's become one of my favorite books. I'm also very excited that there's actually going to be a companion novel to this. The cover was just released a little while ago, and it's actually going to be like a female Robin Hood. It's like a gender bent Robin Hood story. Robin Hood is going to be like this girl, and she looks so badass. I'll put the cover here, and I'm super excited. Another book that I highly recommend. I also highly recommend the audiobook for this as well, by the way. The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzi. This is a historical adventure novel that mixes in a little bit of magical elements. I love the characters in there, first of all. Each of them is incredibly like interesting, and I love their stories. I love their personalities. They're flawed. Their flaws are pointed out. Particularly the discussion among the characters of privilege and like the different kind of privileges that they have. This follows three people, but mainly Percy. He is the inheritor of all his parents' money in England. He comes from like a super rich family, and he is set out to inherit his parents' estate, or his father's estate rather. But before that happens, I guess back in the day, young gentlemen would go on tours of Europe. It was kind of like a time of them to like, you know, let it out of their systems and just like party and do all kinds of things, and then they would go back to their home, settle down, and run their estate. So this follows Percy along with his sister, who is accompanying him, and his best friend. His best friend is half black, by the way, and his sister Felicity is a young woman who is interested in medicine. That's not a spoiler, right? No, it's not a spoiler. One of my favorite things about this is that, well, it deals, first of all, with like heavy topics, and it deals with them in a historically accurate manner, and also like very respectfully, and it points out, like I said, privileges of certain characters. So Percy, he deals with a lot. He is a bit of an alcoholic, he parties a lot, he's bisexual, and he gets abused by his dad basically for it. You know, obviously he's going through a lot. His life is difficult, no one denies that, but what I love is that the characters, particularly Felicity, I think she is very quick to point out to him that he is still extremely lucky in the era that they live in. She is a young woman who wants to study medicine, and that's not something that is, you know, possible for her at the time. There's also the fact that his best friend is half black, and even though he is of nobility, he still gets, you know, a lot of shit for being black. And also he deals with epilepsy. What I particularly love about Felicity is that she was very quick to point out to her brother that, like, yeah, boo-hoo, your life sucks and all, but can you stop being such an asshole and put yourself in the shoes of like the people that you love and who love you, who are also having a hard time. Like, chill, it's not all about you. Calm down, and please like try to understand what we're going through. And I absolutely love that, and I love that there's actually going to be a second book in this series, which I have already pre-ordered. I pre-ordered it pretty much as soon as I finished this one, and is actually going to follow her. I also really desperately want an update on Percy and Monty, because, oh yeah, that's another thing about this. So it is an unrequited best friend romance, which there's just so much to love about unrequited romances. Like, they're one of my guilty pleasures because it's just, there's so much angst, and it's like, oh, you two idiots, like, you obviously love each other. Well, usually in like unrequited romances, like the two people love each other, they just can't see that the other person, you know, loves them. I feel like I blabbed on a lot about this. I hope I didn't spoil anything for anyone who hasn't read this yet, but yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. If you're a fan of historical romance, or just like romance in general, like, it's just good. Oh, also there was an element of like action and mystery to this as well, by the way, which I didn't really talk about, but that was kind of a secondary thing to me. Like, I fell in love, I think, mostly with the characters, and I just wanted to see how their story would develop. I reread a few books as well. I didn't think it was fair if I talked about any of the rereads. However, for this one, I think this reread actually made me appreciate this book a lot more than the first time I read it, and I just felt like I had to talk about it. So the book that I'm talking about is Daughter Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I think when I first read this, I ended up giving it 4 stars. And the reason for those 4 stars is that the first read, as much as I loved it, it's like this perfect mashup of like urban fantasy with like high fantasy, and the characters are amazing, and the magic, the world, like everything is so incredibly rich and beautiful, and Laini Taylor's writing is amazing. I think one of the main problems that I had with it during my first read was that it felt very, very insta-lovey, and I think that kind of not necessarily ruined my experience because I still ended up giving it 4 stars and I still really, really loved it. But it did kind of like take away from my enjoyment of it a little tiny bit, even though it's explained at the end why it feels very insta-lovey. Like, there's a good reason for it. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a very good reason for it. And so this second time around, I think it was really good that I waited so long. So it's been like almost 4 years basically since I first read it. So I remembered like the big plot points, the big revelations, the plot twists and stuff like that, but I didn't remember a lot of the nitty-gritty stuff. So going into it, it did very much feel like I was reading it for the first time, but I still remembered enough of it where the whole insta-lovey thing didn't really bother me. I fell in love with it. It's so good. Like, I became so invested in the characters and the world and what's going to happen. Like, I don't know what else to say about this because I'm pretty sure at this point like everybody but me has read this. But it's just really, really good. It follows a girl named Kaoru who works for this magical person who collects human teeth. Basically her job is to be the collector of teeth in the human world. One day angels kind of start appearing. They leave mysterious marks on the doorways in which she travels between different parts of our world. Yeah, that's as much as I'm gonna say. I don't know if I did a very good job making it sound interesting, but I swear it's really, really good. Like, just give it a chance. If you are one of the few people who has not read this trilogy in any way, shape, or form, kind of drawn to this at all, read it. Trust me, it's just really good. Moving on to the most unexpected, like surprisingly amazing book that I have read in a really, really long time. Daughter of the Pirate King. This book I had kind of seen around the internet, I'm not gonna lie. I had heard good things, but I was like, I haven't heard very many people talk about it. The cover really honestly isn't that great to me. Like, it's an okay cover. Like, it's not drawing me in or whatever. And then I was placing an order on Amazon and I needed a few more dollars to you know, to get that free shipping because I don't have Amazon Prime. So I was like, you know what? Okay, fine. I have heard good things about it. I know it's about pirates. Like, yeah, sure, the cover's not that pretty, but it's fine. Like, you're only gonna see this fine on my shelf anyway. And a few days later, actually, like the audiobook, I put the audiobook on hold and it came around the same time that this was shipped to me. So I started listening to the audiobook and oh my god. Like I said, it was like the most unexpected love. Just like immediately, I love this so much. Let me just tell you what it's about, okay? This follows Aloja, who is, as the title states, the daughter of the Pirate King. And in the beginning, she gets captured by this enemy ship and she is taken on board as a prisoner. The thing is though, that's kind of her plan all along. Basically, she has to live with them and talk to them and be their prisoner for a while. However, the thing that made this really unexpected to me is that Aloja is just such a great character. She's so smart. She's super badass, super feisty. She can obviously take care of herself. Oh, and it's also a really funny book. Like, I did not expect it to be so funny, and the romance is just fantastic. It's really short. The romance, did I mention the romance? Because oh my god, they're adorable together. I just love them. I love romances where like the guy obviously knows what the girl's capable of, and he's kind of like respectful and wary of that. I don't want to give away spoilers, but it's just really good. Like honestly, it's such an unexpected surprise, and I feel like since I've read it, like more people have started to read it, and every single one of them has mentioned that like they did not expect to love this as much. But like I get it, and like yeah, like just you need to read this, honestly. I also wanted to quickly mention the second book. It's only a duology. Both of the books are out now. Second book, also amazing. This one goes a little bit more into like female friendships and like a badass all-lady pirate crew. Highly recommend them. They're just fantastic and amazing. And then last but not least, we are going to talk about the new obsession of my life. You guys don't understand. It's been a really long time since I've fallen this much in love with a series, to the point where I feel like this may be like my top 3 favorite series now. Like obviously Harry Potter's always gonna be my number 1. That's just, you know, it's my life. Number 2 is probably gonna be the Lunar Chronicles. Those are still my children. I still love them so much. But I feel like this may be number 3 now, and it is A Darker Shade of Magic by B.E. Schwab. I have struggled to read this book for a really long time. I think I've tried reading it at least 5 times, maybe more. I never really got too far into it. Not really the book's fault. Like I was interested in the book every time that I started reading it. There was just always like extra things that would happen that would prevent me from finishing the book. This past month, I finally read it, and like it's taken over my life now. Can't see it, but basically there you go, you can kind of see it. You can't see that one, but that's Lila, and then that's Lila and Kel. Like they're my children, they're my babies. I want to buy all the merch. I'm already buying multiple copies. I have the UK paperback editions. I bought the special collector's edition. I'm already getting like the normal, like original white US covers. I love this series so much. It's so good. It's become my life, and I'm just, oh, the characters I think are like my favorite thing. My foot's falling asleep, so I need to like, how do I even begin describing A Darker Shade of Magic? This story follows mainly Kel, who is from Black London. So in this world there are 4 different versions of the same world. Kel is from Black London. So there is Black London, Red London, White London, Grey London. Basically he is one of the few Antari, and he is one of the few people in all 4 worlds who can travel in between each of them. So his job is basically a messenger of the king of one world to the rulers of the other ones. And he also happens to be a bit of a smuggler. The little naughty boy. And in one of his smuggling things, he smuggles something that he's not supposed to, and it sets off this whole thing of events and puts his, not only his world, but his family at risk. I don't feel like I'm doing a very good job at like making this sound good, but it's really good. Like I feel like if you are a fan of character-driven novels in particular, you would really enjoy this, because I think although there is obviously action, like I mean they're traveling between different worlds, and there's like this whole plot and possible assassination, and like there's a lot of things going on. But I think my favorite thing about these novels, I feel like sometimes there's not much that happens like plot-wise in the book, but the characters are just so good. I love their relationships. In the first one particularly, I really love the relationship between Lila and Kel. I love how Victoria shows like how intimate they become, but she does it very subtly. Like it's not the typical romance where like they just met and then they're in love with each other and, you know, would die for each other. Well, it kind of is, but there's a difference in this where it's like it's very subtle, and you can see the characters like just very slowly gaining this like respect and almost like begrudging admiration for each other. And it's not very obviously like making out like we love each other type of thing, but it feels a lot deeper and a lot more realistic. I also really love the like sibling relationship between Kel and between Kel and Rai. It's not really explored so much in the first one as much as it is in the second one, but like it's such a deep like relationship. And Victoria, she is just so good at just creating these links between people, and I've become so incredibly invested in their characters that they almost become like real people to me. Like, you don't know about, well actually no, you do need to know that about me. Like, characters become real people to me once I get really invested. So anyway, that was my last favorites, and that is it, guys. Those are my top 5 books that I have read so far this year. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please let me know if you did. I'm probably gonna go back to doing like the typical kind of wrap-up, but if you did like this, let me know, and maybe alongside the wrap-ups I'll do this kind of like more chatty thing where I pick like my top 5 or my top 3 or whatever, and then I'll do one of those every quarter. I feel like that could be fun. Anyway, that's gonna be it for now. Remember, if you want to see all the books that I've read and all my ratings for them, I will have the Goodreads linked somewhere, up there, down there, wherever it is. And you can like go look through that. I think that's gonna be it for now, so I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys!